Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts on the Football Terrace. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching or listening around the world. Very happy to be back. Very happy to see you all. Very happy to be joined again this week. We didn't know if the show was going to happen, to be fair, a week ago. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But we've got a lot of great stories in relation to Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham, and Liverpool to really delve into, and Newcastle during this show. And we are going to touch again on some more shocking news from Man City and the Premier League in relation to Benjamin Mendy today, because I just don't think these topics should be ignored. I don't think these topics should be brushed under the carpet, and they should have all football fans talking about them, and this thematic review that is definitely needed within football. But I am joined again by Jess. Hope you're well. How are you?
Let's see how this one goes. I think the last time we were here,
yeah,
brutal.
We're obviously allowed to we'll touch on last week. I mean, you were very moody, weren't you, last week?
Whatever. Hopefully it goes better. Why do we have to touch on it?
No,
hopefully it goes better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last week, we know what last week was about, though, Jess. Last week was very much about you. We'll touch on you a little bit later. We'll bring that up a little bit later on in the show. A lot of people are asking what this is on my head.
Well, tell them what's on your head, Terry.
Obviously, I had the first part of my transplant today. So, yeah, it's bandaged up. So you can see it started and it's bandaged up at the back, and yeah, it's there. It's getting done. It's on the way. So the front's being done tomorrow, but I'm still at work, and I'm still at work because there's no reason to go home and rest. Who goes home and rest when there's work to be done? Lots of work to be done in terms of that. But look, I want to start off because I want to get it kind of done. Terrible. We've known about this case for a while now with Benjamin Mendy, but he's now had a further charge placed against him. This is up to 9 counts of sexual assault, rape. He's facing a huge custodial sentence, and it's just another marred day for Premier League football and football in general. And it just feels, I don't know, with some of the stories, we spoke about this yesterday on Straight Facts, but the Molina space where he exposed so many footballers and stories. You've got Mendy, there's Greenwood now. There's a story you told me yesterday about Avram Grant. It just feels like football's about to go through a big uncovering of lots of stories, in this ilk and in this mold.
Yeah, it's the Mendy one is scary. The amount of charges that are coming up is just unbelievable, and unbelievable in the fact that, like, it's just so much at one time. But am I shocked that things like this are happening? No. Football is not exempt, from people in power taking advantage of the situation or of circumstances. It's not above, people with money and power and influence being able to coerce people into things. It's not free of the dark, nasty things that we know about in our daily lives. It's just, I think when you look at football, especially when Molina came out with all of his, his stories and things that he was exposing, it became very clear to a lot of people that watch the beautiful game that there's a dark, dark side to this game that's very similar to what most of us deal with, or we've seen people deal with in our normal lives. And Mendy is somebody that he's 100% finished in life. Like, there's no way, there's no way to really, it's just, how long are you going to be there? How long? There's no way around it. He's had some privilege, handed to him during this time where, he's been in different types of, facilities and cells that other people wouldn't be in, and also being able to go out on bail. But I think that those privileges will soon be gone because the amount of charges that are coming out is just disgusting. And so at this point, with Greenwood, Grant, Mendy, it's just going to keep coming out, and we kind of talked about this the other day, that the one-upping of each other ain't going to work. It's not. There's going to be players from people's teams that they didn't know were doing things, and it will come out and it will hurt you, so it's not about one-upmanship and all that kind of stuff. It's just the reality of the game is just, it's no different than normal life. And stop idolizing these guys. They're normal people with baggage and trauma and dark demons. And so now it's just, maybe people will get real about these footballers. Like, they're no different than anybody else. Stop idolizing them. And they should be tried to the extent of the law, just like everybody else. And Mendy will not be treated like anything different, because that guy, he's done.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think the idolization part is something we kind of touched on yesterday in many ways. And I think it's something for me which I think we're all in some regards guilty of. We've all at times sort of allowed a player off with something that he's done that's morally wrong. It may be legal, but we've let him off the hook with something that is morally wrong. We've left him off the hook with something that we probably should have condemned. But he's my player. I'm going to back him. So there we go. That's it. But I think from my point of view, I just want to see football now thematically reviewed. I want to see it looked at. I want to see a deep dive into what's actually going on at these football clubs. A few people are saying the audio and everything is out of sync. Yeah, my laptop keeps freezing, so I'm going to have to try and get that fixed in a few moments. Let me know now in the comment section if it's working again. It would help me massively. But it appears whenever I touch another screen, it kind of lags and goes a bit weird. And I don't know why, but let me know what's going on. But yes, look, I just, I am shocked and I'm not shocked at the same time, as you've said. And I think the one thing you've said that's really stood out, and what you've really said that stands out and is paramount here, is these footballers are no different. A lot of people are putting these deviant behaviors down to having money. And it's like, well, look at the cover up of cases at football clubs to do with paedophilia. Those coaches committing those crimes all the way back when, they weren't rich, they weren't famous, they weren't powerful like some of the Premier League football players now are. I think it's all interconnected. Of course, when you're given privilege and you're made to feel like a hero, and clubs are creating monsters by not telling you no, it can perpetuate these sort of inner demons and these terrible behaviors and personalities that people have. And I think, fans, as we say, not calling out bad behaviors from their own players and protecting them, clubs protecting them overly. We see this in celebrity all the time. A celebrity can get caught drink driving, having an accident, and instead of him facing the criminal charges of it and being reprimanded, they stick him into rehab. And everyone feels, oh my God, he's got a problem. Oh, it's so terrible. They do 6 months in rehab where we don't see him. And then they come back with a new book and a new TV show or a new single, and we celebrate them like heroes. But if it was a normal, average working man who left the building site, went and got drunk and drove home and smashed into a parked car, nobody would care if he had a drink problem. They'd condemn him, say he should lose his job and he should be cancelled. And I think that kind of behavior there is absolutely key in helping to maybe not stop certain people having these behaviors and these tendencies, because I think some of it is taught. I think some of it is within you. But I think it certainly makes it easier to call these people out and try and stop these scenarios from progressing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and just the act of normalizing this as footballer culture. Once you get a certain amount of money, then these things are just what happens in the game, and it's not that. I've seen a lot of comments like that where it's like, well, this is just kind of what happens. Like you said, money and influence, and you get carried away, and we should feel bad for them because they don't know what they're doing and they've never had this amount of money, and this is just what happens. And it is what happens in normal life, but it's not footballer culture, and it can't be minimized into some sort of cute little phrase or cute little box to make it seem like this is just something that just happens in that world. Like, it's not something that just happens in that world. Like, I believe that, you know, quite like a lot of the people that do these types of things would be doing it whether they had money or not. You know, we just wouldn't know about it because they wouldn't be superstars. So I think it's important to uncover these things. I don't know how far it'll go to stop anything, because for every Mendy that gets caught, there's, you know, a handful of guys that are just getting away with it, you know. So I don't know what will change, but at least, you know, if people can come forward and feel like justice is served, some people will get aired out and hopefully something will change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a great way to round it up. It really is. Viewers, make sure you're smashing that like button. This Friday, we're doing a full feature-length watch-along for Manchester United's FA Cup game. The link will be exclusive on Twitch. The link is available in our live comment section right now. So make sure you're subscribed to our Twitch channel, ready for that on Friday. In speaking of Manchester United, an interesting topic that's thrown up a huge level of debate on the terrace today is the new manager pursuit. So we saw very late last night the highly credible La Parisienne come out and state via, I think a number of journalists have kind of put this out there, but essentially Poch has been sacked. He may still be there now managing and coaching the team day to day, but he has been told, you are gone at the end of the season. He has a stay of execution, but he's losing his job. Some reports are suggesting he could be gone as soon as they're out of the Champions League as well. It may not even last until the end of the campaign. We'll come back to Poch in a minute. The news today surrounding Man United is that Poch is seen as the favourite to come in and sort of replace the interim period of Rangnick and be the long-term replacement of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Of course, Ten Hag is also linked, but it seems to be those two are the main two names that could happen. In terms of Man United appointing their manager, you're hearing Van der Beek and Martial and Paul Pogba stories all suggesting that they want to know who the new manager is before they decide on where they want to play football next season. Pogba still might sign a new deal. Donny and Martial may want to return and play for Manchester United again. Do you think it's important that Man United get this appointment done before the end of the season? And if so, which of the two do you think they should chase? You know, is Poch the guy? Will he be able to make it work at Man United? Or is he that failure, that bottle job that many people think he is?
Well, I think Man United need to be a little bit more. I mean, I know you need to whittle down the choices, you know, and make a short list, but at the same time, they need to make an appointment and they need to make it soon. And the person doesn't necessarily, they don't have to take over in the last months of the season. You just need to know who it is. You know, the difference between Pochettino and Ten Hag could be the difference between Donny van de Beek staying or going. You know, and I don't know which players would stay, what manager is there. I'm not sure. But if they feel like there's a chance to keep the players of a certain quality, especially Pogba, based on the manager that they choose, they need to go ahead and get it done sooner rather than later. So I do think it's important that they at least name the manager like yesterday, you know, hurry up. Now, in terms of who would be a better choice, the better choice is the manager that Ralf Rangnick wants. You know, we've spoken about this before. It can't be, and I feel like we've spoken about this before, but Pochettino is Man United, the entity. I don't know who these people are, but Manchester United, the club, like Pochettino. And then there's Ten Hag, who's somebody else's choice, maybe Ralf Rangnick's. If Ralf Rangnick wants Ten Hag, that's who you go with. You don't bring in Ralf Rangnick to give him a manager that you guys have been wanting since he left Tottenham, and it's always been, no, you let that go. You let that go, because you can't build the footballing philosophy based on a director of football and then not go with the manager that he wants. You know, so I think it needs to be who Ralf Rangnick wants. Now, from my perspective, if I was a Manchester United fan, I would want Ten Hag. You know, that is the manager that I would want. I would want somebody with a clean slate, never been in the Premier League before, but is a very, very good manager. Can work with different types of players. He can work within a structure of a club that has like a DOF on top, and then he's kind of working beneath them. And I think that feels like a better fit than Pochettino. Pochettino feels like something that they've liked for a long time, and just kind of have the picture of him underneath their pillow, and they're always looking at it and stuff, and like, oh, this was, I could have had him. No, like, let that go. And is he a bottle job? I think there is a lot of people that looked at the appointment of Pochettino to PSG a little bit sideways, like, I'm not sure this is going to work out, and it hasn't. PSG don't have to do much to win their league and all of that kind of stuff, but they have to win the Champions League. That was the whole reason why they brought in Neymar, and they still haven't done it. And the level that PSG have dropped since Tuchel has left is you could see it. Like, it's definitely there. They're still good, but they're not improving, and they don't look like the favorites to win the Champions League at the moment. So I'm not surprised that that was above his level. And so it'll be interesting to see where he goes, but it shouldn't be Manchester United. Manchester United should be doing everything in their power to get Ten Hag, especially if that's who Ralf Rangnick wants.
Yeah, the Poch news is interesting because I've seen so many people today say, no, he hasn't been sacked. And I have to just say to people that people have got to wise up and, maybe get a little bit more life experience. I don't know what the right wording for it is, but at the end of the day, he has been told that he will not be the manager at the end of the season. If your boss comes up to you today, whether you work at Tesco's, whether you're a solicitor, whether you're a builder, whatever it is, your boss comes up to you and says, at the end of this project, or at the end of this month, or at the end of this financial year, we are letting you go. You have just been fired. You have just been sacked. You have just been canned. You have just been moved on. And I understand there are problems at that club, but his win percentage is 66%. Tuchel, mid to high 70s. So his win percentage is lower than a lot of other managers at that football club. He failed to win the league there last year. Should be win. If PSG don't win the league, it's a sackable offence, in my opinion. They have beyond the monopoly, and he hasn't capitalized upon that monopoly, as it were. On top of that as well, I understand that he's going to develop our youth. I understand that Poch is going to be able to make us play better football than we've seen under Jose and Oli. But he is not a winner. He is a serial loser. And if he gets appointed, of course I'll want him to win. I won't become negative after every single game saying, see, I told you so, see, I told you so. I'll support the growth. I'll celebrate good wins because there will be those things. But my gut feeling is that he will fail at the final hurdle. He'll get us into great positions to win things, and it will fall apart. That is the history of Mauricio Pochettino. Now, a lot of Spurs fans defend him and say, he wasn't given everything required to fully deliver at Tottenham. That, he didn't get backed in the right areas. He wasn't always given the players that he wanted. There's a lot of excuses that have been made for him. We were told that when he goes to PSG, you would see the real him. I don't see the difference. Yes, he's going to win the league this year. Yes, he won a cup last year. But those things are food and drink. They're basic things at Paris Saint-Germain. And I'm really concerned about the appointment of him. And it's just a gut feeling. It's just a feeling in my gut that he will not be the guy. He will make us play better football. So for some fans, he'll get longer. But I think we're going to become a style over substance team with him. And it'll all be about how good things look. He'll have the same win percentage as Oli. And people will say, yeah, but at least the football's better. And that for me actually feels worse because it's almost like you're being it's almost an element of like papering over the cracks that we're still not going to achieve what we're here to. We're here as an elite level club that spends what we spend to at the very least be competitive in these major tournaments. And over a period of 5 years, you want to be winning a couple of them as a bare minimum. And I just don't think Poch is going to get us over the line. Ten Hag comes with these question marks. Of course he does.
That's what I was going to ask you about Ten Hag, because there's also, there's pros and cons to Pochettino. There's also pros and cons to Ten Hag, or where they could be. One of the most, I think, positive things about Ten Hag is the fact that the football that Ajax plays. I just think that that is something that the United fan base really want. They want nice football. They want, patterns of play, and they want to rival, City for being kind of the team that plays the best football. But he's never really managed like beyond the Eredivisie, has he? And the Eredivisie is not a top league, and Ajax just kind of walks it every season. They can do kind of whatever they want, and it's easy for him. How do you think he'll handle potentially the pressure of having not one rival, not two, three, four, five, six, nipping at your heels all day long, and the pressures of being at Manchester United, fighting against Klopp and Pep and Tuchel? Do you think he'll be able to handle that? Because that's much different. And you can name how well they've done in the Champions League, but that's a tournament. It's a cup. And that's different than whatever 30 games on the bounce. In the Premier League, with the level that the Premier League have in terms of managers and teams.
It's a fantastic question, and the only true answer from any true fan is nobody knows. And
we're doing ifs, ands, and buts right now.
Yeah, nobody knows. My gut feeling with Ten Hag is that he'll do it. My gut feeling with Ten Hag is that he is not married to playing the Ajax way. My gut feeling with Ten Hag is that he'll be able to adapt to what he's got. He'll still keep his principles, but he'll be able to adapt as an example. He gives me the feeling of a winner. He gives me the feeling of somebody that, for instance, what he's done with Ajax in the Champions League is, yes, he hasn't won the Champions League, but pound for pound with the money he has to spend, he has done brilliantly. The only thing I don't look at as a complete bottle job from Poch is that Champions League run, because they were punching above their weight in that. But it's more things like his semi-final and final performances domestically in England. It's the Leicester season where his squad, in my opinion, some would say it was better at the time, and they faded away the way they did, and they ended up coming third as an example. And I had a comment that came in a few minutes ago that said, Terry, you're a flip-flop because you wanted Poch. I did. But the reason that I've completely decided now, I'm sticking my flag in the ground and saying no, is because of what I've seen at Paris Saint-Germain. I always had my question marks. But he's gone to PSG. He can't manage the egos. He can't get consistency in performances. He can't get Lionel Messi to play well. The fact that he can't get Lionel Messi to perform should be the biggest red flag for every. He's not a diva. He isn't the, Ronaldo gets sort of tarnished and looked at as the guy that like throws his toys out of his pram and doesn't want to work hard. That isn't what everybody says Lionel Messi is. So why is he not getting a tune out of most people's GOAT, most people's greatest ever football player? That's a Pochettino thing, in my opinion, and I think he'll struggle in that way. Back to Ten Hag, I think he'll do well. I think he'll be able to adapt. I think he'll handle the pressure. I think he wants it. I think he craves it. I don't think Poch does. I don't think Poch wants pressure. I think he's the kind of that's why I call him a bottler. I think he's the kind of person that when the going gets tough, he runs. Where I think Ten Hag wants it. I think Ten Hag is absolutely chomping at the bit to be thrown into the wolf's pit and to see who can come out as top alpha. And that attitude will get you over the line more often than somebody who has, someone who has fight is going to win more fights than someone who has flight. Because the guy with flight ain't going to be in a fight. He runs away. He's not even there. So look, I want Ten Hag, but my gut feeling is it's going to be Mauricio Pochettino that comes in, and that's who Man United are left with. And it's a shame, in my opinion, because I just think Ten Hag is going to end up going to City in a few years' time. And,
of course. I mean, that feels like a natural fit as well. If you guys don't get him now, you won't get him, because when I also look at the rebuild that would have to happen at Manchester United in order to get that Ten Hag football going, he could kind of walk into City and have some players there that could probably play that way. So, and we know that City are kind of in the background trying to work on that seamless transition between Pep Guardiola and somebody that plays something similar. So that would kind of feel like the better fit. But I think Manchester United have to go for him because Pochettino is more of the same. And I can't see you guys winning anything with him. So hopefully Pochettino gets fired.
No, I hear you on that. It needs to be done. And I think on the point of, do we need to appoint a manager soon? The answer again is yes. I think it helps Pogba make his mind up, which helps our planning. Because if Pogba doesn't, this is what's crazy. If Pogba doesn't know whether he's going to sign or not because he doesn't know who the next manager is going to be, it damages our planning when it comes to talking to other players. Because if Pogba's here, it changes who we go after in the transfer market. Martial stays and Donny van der Beek stays, it changes who we may target. Because if you employ Ten Hag and Ten Hag says to Rangnick, I want Pogba, I want Donny, I want Martial, they're going to be in my first 14, 15, 14, 15 players are generally the main individuals that get played by a manager. They're in my thoughts for that. They're what I want. Those players might go, right, great, I'll finish my loan or I'll finish the season in Pogba's case and I'll stay. If we don't announce our new manager until June, some of those players could already by then have gone, signed deals elsewhere or committed to another football club, and you create an even bigger problem for the recruitment team. And this is where a proper football club run in the right way with a great structure operates. You get the new manager announced. You get them announced sooner rather than later. Whoever it is, you get it done so you can start to genuinely prepare for next year. You can get your ducks in a row. You can get the players lined up that you want to bring in. And also even players that are not at your club yet. You can get people a little bit excited. You can get people a little bit excited, right? You might find that if it's Ten Hag, that could be a difference if we go after Declan Rice. Declan Rice might look at him and think, oh, fancy a bit of that. More so than if you're talking to him in June and you're like, well, who's your manager going to be? We haven't decided yet. It's not going to help because people are going to cut. This transfer window is going to start off quicker because there's no international tournament this summer. You had the Euros last year that really got in the way of the transfer market. This year is going to be, I think from the off, it's going to be fast because there's a number of free transfers going on with Paul Pogba's and Kylian Mbappe's. You've got the Haaland saga that's going to go on. Declan Rice is going to be another one. There's going to be so many big transfers this summer going on. Teams are going to get at it from the beginning. I think we just need to be ready. And that's my fear again. Man United and planning, they just don't happen. They never, ever, ever, ever plan properly,
Yeah. This is true, but we'll definitely see what happens. Hopefully you guys find out sooner rather than later, because the later it goes, like you said, the less stable and competent the club looks. So yeah. And I never really understand with Manchester United and Arsenal where there's always a gap in between something and something. Like you sack a manager and there's always a big long gap before somebody new comes in. It's so
weird. I do feel like we just get, and again, we're not really talking Arsenal today because I think the Arsenal transfer window stuff has been absolutely done to death. But I kind of just get that feeling with both our football clubs. It's just a case of like, I don't know if they really want it. We've said this before. Do they really want it? Do they really want it in the right way? I don't know. But we've got to do some super chats. Now, before I do that, though, one thing I have to do with my head is that my head has to be watered and sprayed every half an hour. So I've got to spray some water on it to keep it moist. Otherwise, it don't grow properly. I probably sprayed a bit too much there. So I've got to water my head.
You're literally watering your head so the hair can grow.
Yes, literally like a plant. It's like I've got a plant on my head. Like a plant on my head. It needs to be watered. Man. You want to laugh so bad, don't you? You just want to burst out laughing. Yeah, but you're holding it in. We've got some super chats here that I want to do. First one here. I think this is back to the Mason and Benjamin talk. Says money caused this. That's from Marvo. David here says, evening, Terry and Jess. This is deep stuff indeed. Wrongdoings need exposing. Hopefully it will encourage more to do this, more to out people. Think there's always a percentage of bad eggs in society, which I think most would agree with. The main stand, thank you for becoming an official member of the Football Terrace. It means a great deal to us. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Got a few more to jump through here. We've got one here that says, I remember Marcus Alonso killed a teenage girl by a hit and run when he was playing for Bolton at the time, and Alonso's family paid the deceased girl's family so they don't go to the police. Now, I don't know how true that is actually. It's the first time I know about the accident thing there. I didn't know about the ins and outs of that story. But thank you. Again, those are just some of those things where you look at it and we think to ourselves, do we overlooked that. Well, look, we all know this, and take it away from the assaults and the sexual assaults that have happened to players. We do this on another. We've seen this is my club right now is in a massive glass house, so I'm not throwing stones. We've seen big clubs in England keep people at their clubs who've done racial things. We've seen them, people that have committed assaults, people that have gone to prison, right. And this ain't now. Tony Adams went to prison when he was an Arsenal player and came back and played for Arsenal. This has been going on for a long time in football. And maybe it's about time we as fans just start to go, do you know what? We just want better. We have got to almost set the moral standard for these players now and make sure our clubs are dear. But do you know what that comes down to, Jess? It's self-policing. And if someone listen, with what Mason's done and what Benjamin Mendy's done, no one's backing them. But when it comes to things that are, I'm not going to say less illegal, but lesser crimes, much lesser crimes, or they're just moralistically wrong, like cheating or whatever, or something someone's tweeted. I just don't think fans are going to have the energy to see one of their best players be kicked out the club to prove a point to everybody else.
Well, I do wonder obviously right now, like you said, distancing yourself from Mason, Greenwood, and Mendy is probably what's happening, making it public that we don't do this, we don't back this, whatever. I wonder how many people knew that they were into this type of stuff, though. I wonder because they're close, they're friends, they hang out. And if you've done something and it's gotten to this point, you probably have done it before. And I just wonder if the severity of how things are kind of unraveling now, if somebody in that dressing room has seen these guys do things like this before, heard about it, know about it, if that'll change their mind on whether or not that's okay. Sometimes you have to see somebody really go down for something before you understand the severity of it. And I know that, and you know this too, that sometimes there's bro code and stuff like that. And when it comes to like abuse, rape, serious stuff, there is no bro code in terms of that. So I wonder if anybody knew about it. I wonder if the clubs knew.
I agree, or murmurings or stories, but did nothing. And the reason that's a great point is, look at the entertainment industry. It seemed like everybody knew what Weinstein was doing. It seemed like in the celebrity world, everybody knew what Epstein was. It seems like everybody knew who these two people were and what they were doing, but no one said anything about it. And what really triggered me about those cases is that as soon as it was outed, suddenly everybody was, oh yeah, I knew, or I heard this. Why weren't you chatting about it? Why were you still making films for him? That Ricky Gervais told that joke at the Golden Globes a few years ago, where he told a joke about Epstein dying. Like, I can't remember quite what the joke was, but it ended with, and just like Jeffrey Epstein, he was talking about Afterlife. He says Afterlife is a program all about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife died of cancer. And that is more interesting than this. He goes, you can binge WhatsApp for 3.5 hours and it's still shorter than this. And just like Jeffrey Epstein, he just to let you know, spoiler alert, just like Jeffrey Epstein, he didn't kill himself. There's a season 2. Everyone went, oh, about the joke. And he went, what? Shut up. And he went and this was the best line of the night. I know he was your friend, but I don't care. And you could see the faces of some of the most famous and self-righteous celebrities in that room who have been friends with him for years. And it's like, you must have known. Do you get where I'm coming from? And I think the same must be, that's why football needs this thematic review. And that's a great comment, because it needs that review for that reason. Moving on to some football stuff here. Ralf might have input, but he's only a consultant. He's brought in by Myrtle. It is and should be, he should be the decision maker, not Ralf. And I think that's key. I do understand where you're coming from with that. That's a great comment there from my guy, Rack. He has been pre-sacked or is unemployed in advanced. Yeah, I mean, both things are the same. I like
pre-sacked.
Pre-sacked. He's been pre-sacked. He's on a stay of execution, essentially. It's like, you're going to manage this team until... But trust me, if Paris Saint-Germain could get Zidane in now, if Zidane agreed to join now, Poch would be gone. He's there by default.
Early vacation, really. Or holidays, you guys like to say.
Why do you believe so strongly that Ralf will recommend one of those two managers? I can see him choosing someone different, not many will know. And maybe he will. And that's a really good point, Red Wolf. And if he does, look, if it's Ralph's recommendation, I back it, because Ralph is a master at this element of things, in my opinion. Nav here.
And the
Sorry,
whole
go on.
the whole consultant thing, like, I hear what Rack is saying about he's just a consultant and all of that, but his role is not just somebody that I feel like I thought his influence on what was going to happen at Manchester United in terms of kind of building the squad, and because they started talking about a rebuild the moment that they hired him. So the rebuild, bringing in the players, being this guy that's a mastermind at knowing how to build structures in the club and the recruitment and all that kind of stuff. If he's just a consultant and he's not really like that big of an influence, and then maybe I have it wrong, but I could have sworn he was going to have more input. And I think there needs to be a stronger footballing person there making the decisions on football matters. And for me, the manager is a football matter.
No, I agree. I think it does need to be Ralph. Ralph's more experienced than Myrtle. Ralph wants a permanent role. And I think they need to, I don't care what they call it. They need to create a role that sits above Myrtle, that is football related, that then feeds into the board. They can both sit in the boardroom, but I think Myrtle needs a boss.
So what is Myrtle's, what is his title?
I think it's technical director as an example. But he doesn't have anywhere near as much of the remit so essentially he doesn't have anywhere near the footballing remit that Woodward had. And you've now had Richard Arnold that's taken over from Woodward. Richard Arnold said he wants to delegate the football stuff out. My want is for the majority of the big football decisions to be Ralph's call, and for John Myrtle and Darren Fletcher to feed into him. And then it's Richard Arnold and Ralph split the running of the club. One guy takes the commercial, financial, business side. The other guy takes the football. If we do that, there's a good chance Man United, if they keep listening to Ralph, could get back onto the right roads. That's what I would like to see.
His influence has to be the one that he has to have almost the loudest voice in the room. And so to say like, okay, well, he's just a consultant, I think is almost like, well, then why bring him in if you're not going to take his recommendation for the manager? He's going to be the one bringing in the players. He's the one that's, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I agree. It just has to be Ralph for me. It does. Super chat here says Tony Pulis could go to PSG and win the league. That's how bad the league is. Someone in the chat could do it. Could win the league. I'm not even taking the P. Forever bet. Forever bet I'd put on PSG to win the league. I'd be a millionaire. I mean, yeah, it is. It's not winning the league is harder for PSG than winning it, in my opinion.
If you watch the I think it's the Neymar documentary that just came out, they specifically talked about they brought him in because they need to win the Champions League. PSG, before Neymar came in, was essentially a dead club that like nobody really talked about at the top. Like it was always Real Madrid, Barcelona. They were just kind of there, and they were able to pull off this huge move for Neymar, and it was all because of the Champions League. So every year that they don't win that, they've lost. And everybody, like a lot of people had them favorites this season to win the Champions League. I think after Pochettino's beginning of the season, I think a lot of people would say that they're not sure that they would win it. And that's a problem. And that's why he's going.
I agree. I agree completely. Nav here again. This time says, imagine Terry with a Trump wig or Boris Johnson wig. Real OG Terry, aka the wig star. And listen, I'm going to say this now. This is my hair. It's my hair. All right. It's actually my hair. They're taking it from my head. And that's the word. That's the scariest bit. It's like they drill into your head and then pull the head. It's actually terrifying when I'm sitting there. But once the anesthetic kicked in, I just fell asleep. So I actually had like a good 2.5 hours sleep today during the day, which is amazing. CK Smart says, great show. Is the secret phrase dead ball specialist? That isn't the secret phrase, but as a very good guess. Thank you very much, my friend. Matthew here says, Ralph should be head of footballing relations. And yeah, I mean, do you know what, Matthew? Whatever you want to call it, head of football, footballing
director of football.
Yeah, whatever it's called, he just needs to be the man running the football end. Nick here with the super chat. Says, great respect for your work ethic. You rightfully adaba the act that Mason Greenwood yet gave airtime to a man who refused to condemn Claude's racism on AFTV and regularly says, smash the granny out of the likes. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm not too sure what you're talking about there, as in who you're referring to. Oh, yes, we had Claude. Claude did come back on the show. And I'm pretty sure I saw some, him apologize for saying that, like, what he said was wrong. I think
He's
Claude,
talking about Lee.
Oh, he's talking about Lee. Oh, look.
He's the only person that says smash the granny out of the likes, I think.
Oh, is that what he says? I don't even realize that he said that. Look, for me, I think to compare those two things in any way, shape, or form is really off. To compare Lee for being looking at Claude's situation and saying, do you know what, he told a stupid joke. He didn't mean it in the way that many people believe that he did. To compare that to raping a woman, I don't think they are comparable, in my opinion. So I appreciate the super chat and your opinion there, and also, like, the smash the granny out of it thing. I can understand why some people would find that distasteful, but to suggest that that's, again, anywhere near those things. And in fairness, you've super chatted again, to be fair. Sorry, I didn't see this one. It says, not comparing both things, but change in society starts with baby steps. Great respect to your channel. And I hear you on that. And I think that, maybe that's something that people want to speak about. I don't think they're kind of comparable, in my opinion. But look, I do appreciate your view in relation to that, my friend. So thank you. A lot of people are asking, did I get a hair transplant? I started the hair transplant today. The back's been done. The front's the one I'm scared the most about. But yeah, that's being done tomorrow, my people. Transfer window's shut. Transfer window is done. Spoke Arsenal, we spoke Man United, but other business was done by other teams.
Okay, like, I want to read this out to you. Sorry.
Read it out.
Okay, because I didn't know what had really, like, transpired between these clubs or whatever, but apparently, because at one point, Luis Diaz was supposed to go to Spurs. So essentially, Liverpool were grateful to Spurs for lowering the price down for Luis Diaz. Porto were initially demanding 80 million euros, which the Reds were not prepared to pay, but Spurs put in months of hard work to lower the fee, which Liverpool capitalized on and matched the offer. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and it's the biggest L. I know Tottenham ended up signing Bentancur and I can't even pronounce the other guy's name. Dejan. I know his first name is Dejan. Yeah, him. But the Luis, him, that geezer. That Luis Diaz deal falling through the way it did, £4 million differential, is absolutely shocking beyond belief. Not only did they get pipped by Liverpool, as you're saying there, Liverpool are out here now doing up PR, thanking Tottenham for saving them 30. Spurs have saved Liverpool £30 million. That's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
It is. It's crazy. And the thing is that, like, and we'll probably talk about this more in a second, but I remember very vividly a lot of Spurs fans and Spurs talking heads speaking about the January transfer window as it was going to be the biggest window that Spurs ever had. This January transfer window, not the summer one. And so I was expecting them to go for summer targets in January, which is very difficult. But when you've just hired Antonio Conte, you give him whoever he wants. I'm sure that he wanted Luis Diaz over Kulusevski. Kulusevski is a very easy deal for Paratici to get done. It's basically like a money laundering scheme for Juventus to get some of these boys off the book and just shuffle them over to Tottenham. I mean, Kulusevski is a good young player that was kind of suffering at Juventus, but he ain't no Luis Diaz. We know who the number one target probably was for Conte, and they let him down. If you look at that front line for Spurs, I mean, going into that second half of the season, if it was Luis Diaz, Kane, and Son, yeah, then you really start to be like, okay, they're doing something. They needed a midfielder. They didn't get that. And I understand that they'll get Romero and Son back at the back end of the season and they're probably fine. But you hired Antonio Conte. He's one of the top 5 managers in the world.
Yeah.
And you let him down over $4 million valuation.
Do you know what's mad about it as well? Like a few people in the comments are saying, and I want to put some of them up. Like things like Alistair Gold never mentioned Diaz. Jess is completely ignoring that Diaz saying he wanted Liverpool over Spurs for obvious reasons. None of that is those things that for me are separate from the conversation. I think we all know that Diaz wanted Liverpool over Tottenham, but Spurs were close to agreeing to get the deal done. And it's the £4 million thing, but it's also the lack of due diligence. It's the lack of due diligence from Tottenham, which is for me the most embarrassing element, because they briefed, and Alistair Gold did mention Diaz, I believe, because when they lost, this is how bad this is for Tottenham, is when they were losing that battle for Adama Traore, they put out the spin of, but Luis Diaz was with the main target. They put out, when we went live with the hijack news of Adama Traore going to Barcelona, the notion was, and Spurs fans were sharing it with us, and they were copying us into tweets and sending me articles of Diaz was the main target. The lack of awareness that Liverpool were about to swoop, the fact that they came in from out of nowhere and took him away from you as well, that deal should have been beyond tied up. You know what you turn around and do? You outbid Liverpool in the end. This is what Spurs should have then done. Okay, well, look, we'll give you, you then try and push that price up again. And because Diaz, he may then have said no to you. I'm going to wait until the summer for Liverpool because Liverpool really got his juices flowing. But you make the effort, oh, we've lost out on him now. Boom, we'll pay 70 million. Reject Liverpool's offer, we'll give you 70 million. You've got to then do that because you've been embarrassed twice in the space of 2 days. And Antonio Conte, look, is he happy with what he's had? Look, they've improved. They've got rid of some deadwood. They were dead at their club. They were doing nothing. Ndombele, huge flop in the Premier League. Dele Alli just isn't delivering. So those players being gone is good for Tottenham. We don't know how good these 2 new signings are going to be. But Luis Diaz should have been a done deal for Tottenham. Adama Traore should have been a done deal for Tottenham. And one of the biggest problems for Spurs is they purposely, I remember Dean Jones saying it 2 weeks ago on the Done Deal show, that Levy loves to leave things until the last week of the window. Idiot. Get it done. When you were leading the race, get it done. Get it over the line. And Liverpool are absolutely buzzing. You get the player they wanted 6 months earlier for £30 million cheaper because of Daniel. Daniel Levy's done better business for Liverpool in the last 3 years than he's done Tottenham. It's a madness.
Well, I mean, you remember when we were sitting here and it was like 20 days into the window and Spurs hadn't done anything. And yeah, Kulusevski is a good player. Like, and this is the thing, Spurs fans, I'm an Arsenal fan, but I'm not throwing shade here. Kulusevski and Bentancur are good players. Are they the type of signings that I thought the January transfer window that was being spoken about would have resulted in? No. Luis Diaz was that type of player. And we're talking about Antonio Conte. So you guys being able to acquire, Bentancur and Kulusevski on the last day of the window to try to salvage the window because you failed in other things doesn't mean that we can't talk about it, and I look at it and I'm like, for Spurs, they want to get into the top 4, right? It's not about just it's not really about being better than Arsenal. Right now, you're probably looking at your squad and saying, it's probably better than Arsenal's, cool. And I think to a certain extent, it might be right now. But to get into the top 4, you're going to have to beat Manchester United. And I really think that signing for Luis Diaz would have probably put you guys over the line. He's a starter for you. He's a rotational option for Liverpool if they don't get rid of Mane. So you needed that. And there's no reason, there's not a bad thing to be upset about, and your talking heads, your Alistair Golds, your Ornsteins, your Pierces, whatever, they are always going to spin the narrative that the club wants, that they were never a number 1 target. They weren't even high up on the list. We're looking towards the summer. We have all the money. It's going to be a big summer window. You were supposed to have a big January window. And now you are risking not having Antonio Conte at the helm because he will walk If you guys have another summer window, like you just had, like the January window, he'll walk. So you should be upset. You know, I mean,
you're absolutely right. There's a great comment here. It says, Terry, did you see? So I'm just going to scroll up so I can read this properly. Did you hear, sorry, that Romano saying that on his channel that Man United never meant to buy anyone? Why are reporters only saying this now? And this just feeds exactly into what Jess was just saying. What he actually said, I saw his tweet, is that Man United were offered Dennis Zakaria, Julian Alvarez, and Kamara Zakaria and Julian Alvarez. We were offered them during the January window, and we told them no. I understand that's what Romano's been told. I'm not discounting that he's not making that up. That's what he has been told, and he's relaying that information. But if Man United weren't going to buy anybody because we didn't know who the new manager was going to be, we would have briefed the tier ones on the 1st of Jan and said, categorically, we're buying no one because we have a new manager. That hasn't been said until practically the end of the window and after the window to make it sound like, oh, we were never in for them. For me, in my opinion, we did have conversations and we tried. 3 or 4 days before the end of the window, it was all, we haven't had any conversation with anybody. Well, how can you be offered to buy people if you didn't have conversations? It's those. And by the way, agents don't ring football clubs up and say, hello. Oh, hi, yeah, it's the agent here of Dennis Zakaria. Oh, how you doing, mate? Yeah,
and
really
it's
good.
the offers, bids.
Do you want to buy Dennis Zakaria? No. Okay, cheers, thanks, bye. It's not a cold call like a double glazing firm. It's a sit down, it's a meeting, it's a conversation. There were definitely talks. And look, United fans are free to believe what they want. Tottenham fans in this scenario are free to believe what they want. But wake up and smell the damn coffee. If you're linked to a player, you know, Man United also looked at Luis Diaz. The outlet that broke the news that Liverpool were coming in to hijack him also mentioned Man United's name. Within hours, Man United are out. We are deeply hurt and upset and confused as to why this news has come out. Well, I'll tell you why the news has come out, because the Portuguese publication that put it out has no loyalty to you. They don't care about you. They don't care. They don't need to be in your good graces. And football's become now this almost, football clubs have realized there are 4 or 5 journalists, especially, that everybody listens to. And they feed them the story. Now, those journalists aren't lying. Those journalists are just telling you what the clubs and people close to those clubs are saying. But you've got to read between the lines. You know, you have to, as we say, Spurs are now being told that Diaz weren't that important. The day that they were losing Adama Traore, they were being told that Diaz is the #1 target.
Let me give you another example, just so you guys know that it's not me being shady. Literally, Arsenal are acting like they have this master plan for the summer. And they're saying that they went after their #1 target, which is Vlahovic. And after that, you know, they just kind of decided to stick with the plan. And, you know, they couldn't push anything forward because it was difficult in January. There were reports, and I don't know how many of them are true or not, but there were reports that on deadline day, we went to Espanyol and asked them about Raul de Thomas. We got pushed back on that. There were rumors that we tried to talk to Benfica about Darwin Nunez. Couldn't talk to them. We went to Real Sociedad and tried to give them under the release clause on deadline day for Isak. And that we also, our assistant coach called Morata and tried to get him to leave Juventus for Arsenal. This is all around deadline day. If you were sticking with the plan and Vlahovic was your #1 target and you weren't worried because you were going into the summer to do big business, why were you rushing around on deadline day trying to sign the striker? It's BS. Like, it's BS. They knew we needed a striker and they failed. And Tottenham knew that they needed somebody up top and a midfielder, and they didn't get the #1 targets. They didn't get the best targets. They got who Paratici could get based on his connections, and that's Kulusevski and Bentancur. Not bad players, good players, but definitely not what you guys were going for in that window. Manchester United 100% looked at some players, weren't sure that they could get them, saw that there was going to be a lot of competition, and then decided to act like they weren't really going to buy anybody in January. We were all in the January transfer window looking to strengthen, and all 3 teams were just done.
If Arsenal, and I know we weren't meant to speak about Arsenal, but if Arsenal were only after Vlahovic and nobody else, they would have briefed that to the press in their chasing of him. It would have been, listen, if they don't get Vlahovic, they're not going to go after anybody else. They are going to wait until the summer. That wasn't the story until near the end of the window, and it's like a last minute spin. And I understand that people that don't want to put their clubs down, they always want to believe that their clubs are running. You know what's crazy about it? The direction and the trajectory and the failures of our clubs over recent years, and for my club and your club 10 to 15 years, how are we still believing what our club are telling us? How are we still taking it seriously? That's the bit that doesn't compute with me. We are buying into the people that we say are systematically running our clubs into the ground, but yet we believe everything they tell the media. That's what's strange to me. That's the bit I can't compute with. It doesn't make any sense to me as a fairly, look, I'm not the smartest tool in the box, it's the sharpest tool in the box, the sharpest knife in the drawer. Some people would say I'm a little bit of a sandwich short of a picnic at times. I'm a bit of a moron. I'm not overly educated. I'm just a normal working class man. But I don't understand how you can sit there and say the Glazers and our board are inept, they're rubbish, they're crap, they always fail, they're taking us backwards, they're liars, they're leeches, but then believe their media press releases. The two things don't add up to me at all. And the same with Arsenal. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans try and push this real positive, things are good. Oh, salary saved. We've cleared the Deadwood FC. It's like we can see that you're constipated on which is why me and you had an argument last week, because you were holding it all in. You didn't want to let it out. And by Monday, you were like, I'm free. I can just say it. So it was good to see.
All I want to do is wait for the window to actually close.
I know. And I think my view was just, I could see by then what was coming. And it was just, again, I do get where you're coming from, keeping your powder dry to the right moment. But I hear you on that. And Liverpool have just been given an absolute touch. And another club that's really come up in the last couple of days, and there's been two very, very different and conflicting reports. Journalists close to Chelsea have essentially said that Chelsea had no real plans in January to buy anybody of any real note. You've then had James Robson from the Evening Standard say that Tuchel was essentially very frustrated that the club didn't go out and buy targets for him. So two credible journalists, one that's considered closer to Chelsea, one that's considered a little bit more neutral, but giving out completely different reports. Do you feel Chelsea fouled Thomas Tuchel this January? Or do you believe that actually Chelsea in a really good place, they've got a really good squad, a world-class manager, and they are absolutely fine to wait until the summer? Like, which of the two stories do you believe is the most truthful?
It's a difficult one because I do think the Chelsea team is the squad is strong, so I can see the argument that they can wait until the summer. They're out of the title race, so all you have to do is just keep out of the top 4 race and try to, make a good showing in the Champions League, and see what happens. They're in some other cups as well. So I can kind of see that aspect of things, but I can't help but feel like Thomas Tuchel might be in a position now where he wants to put his own spin on the team, on the squad that he has now. And I found the Dembele thing a little bit strange because I do think that there might have been a little bit of maybe Thomas Tuchel wanting to bring in Dembele. We know that that's where they need freshening up. In the midfield, they do need somebody, but up top, none of those players are Thomas Tuchel's players. Like, you can't even, we know that Lukaku was a board signing. He was not, a Thomas Tuchel signing. So, and that's where they're struggling, right? Is to put the ball in the back of the net. And so he may have wanted to, that was a good opportunity for them to bring Dembele in. I know that people, wow, you're really going to water your head again, aren't you? Okay. So this window was a good opportunity to bring in Dembele for very cheap. Tuchel and Dembele have a very good relationship, and maybe he wanted Dembele and they convinced him that they'll wait into the summer. I don't know, but Tuchel, even though you have a strong squad, it's not your players, and Tuchel deserves to have players that are players that he brought in. And so maybe he's itching to do that. But when they get to the summer, I think Chelsea already have plans, don't they, to bring in Jules Koundé and to look at Chouameni, and who knows how many of those are actually Tuchel's choices or the board. But Tuchel may just be learning that harsh lesson that at Chelsea, Abramovich gets Abramovich's players, and you're just there to work with what they give you. and so he might have been let down. I mean, Tuchel is a very competitive guy, and I'm sure he's not taking being out of the title race very well. He might want to win something, and maybe the squad that he's looking at doesn't really move him the way that he feels. I don't know. They have a strong squad, but you can tell that there needs to be some tweaks there. Can he work with it? Yes. Does it need to be improved? Probably to meet the requirements of Chelsea Football Club. So it's a tough one, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little bit disappointed that they didn't bring in just even one player, to judge
Yeah,
things up.
and do you know what I find interesting? Again, fans. I always look at the fan element. So this is what was said by The Athletic. They said Thomas Tuchel didn't push for signings in January. He and Chelsea's priority is the summer recruitments. Jules Koundé, Declan Rice, and Tchouaméni are amongst the list of targets. But then, of course, what James Roberts has said is that Thomas Tuchel was left frustrated by the failure to cover Chelsea's injury crisis during the January window. The Chelsea boss expected to have a degree of control over the summer plans, with key areas to address already identified. And I think, do you know what's really interesting? A lot of people have backed The Athletic on this. A lot of Chelsea fans have backed The Athletic. They're closer to the club. They know more. But that was the same outlet 5 days ago. They were all condemning for pushing out on Tuchel's anniversary when they were talking about how there a number of attacking players are not happy. They don't like how Tuchel treats them. At that point, that outlet and that journalist, Simon, I want to say it's Simon, it's not Simon Jones, it's Simon something, and it's gone from my head. This time last week, they were liars. They were charlatans. They were clickbaiting. They were dragging up news towards the end of the transfer window to try and it was a slow news day. Now it's 100%. They're right. They're close to the club. They know what they're talking about. And that's the element where fans have got to wake up and smell the coffee. You either believe these journalists that are close to the club or you don't. For me, it's interesting that there's two very different stories coming out. What I'm thinking is the club are saying we're all on the same page, and Tuchel may have told somebody else. Actually, I just wasn't. I understand that we're going to wait until the summer to buy our main targets, but I really could have done with getting Luca Digne in. I really could have done with just a extra body in my team to help in certain areas of the pitch to get us through the FA Cup, to get us. We've got the League Cup final, we've got the FA Cup, we've got the Champions League still. They're going to go away to the World Club Championship. They still need to secure top four. Although they are 1-33 on with Bet Victor to do it, they still have to secure it. And I think that there should be. Why do I think Tuchel's a little frustrated? Because a lot of Chelsea fans are frustrated. Now, do I think it's as bad as we didn't go out and sign two marquee stellar signings? We didn't go and get that's. It doesn't need. It's not that bad. It's if you actually read what James Robertson said it's that he hasn't been helped. He feels that he wasn't supported through the injury crisis that was needed, and there are some cracks starting to appear at Chelsea. And I know a lot of Chelsea supporters don't want to believe it. But there are these reports from Lukaku, these reports from other attackers, these reports that he was slightly unhappy with the transfer window. I'm not saying it's a breaking point. I'm not saying he is facing the sack. But if things don't go well in the League Cup final, if things don't go well in the Champions League, we know what can happen. If 1, 2, 3 more players start to turn, as it appears some of the strikers may have done, Tuchel could find himself in a very difficult situation. That isn't because Tuchel isn't a brilliant manager. He is. He's sensational. He's world-class. He's one of the best in the business right now. But that is the history of Chelsea. And
it's also the history of Tuchel, though. I think we also have to remember that there's a history with Thomas Tuchel and having these issues with players and issues with the board. And so the original, like when he became Chelsea's manager, a lot of people cited that as something to look at in the future because it will come. He will bump heads with the board. And Chelsea tend to not really back their managers the way that they probably should. So as it seemed like a very good mix in the beginning, it may be something that doesn't mix that well in the longer term.
I hear you on that completely. A super chat here says that it's been reported that Chelsea will become the first English team to be in a robot referee trial. What do you believe will be the pros and cons? Is that a true story? Or was that? I thought that was like a spoof story. Is that a true story?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to say they're gonna have a robot manage their game. They're gonna have a referee as a robot.
They are being phased out.
Robot ref, right? It's actually on Twitter. I'm gonna have a look at
robot ref. Oh wow.
No way. Dermot Gallagher's shaking its hand. Hang on.
They're saying in the Super Cup,
No, at the
in
World
the
Club
Club Cup,
Championship. Oh my God.
a robot linesman.
Like, look at this. Look at this. Let me just put my thing on because my computer's bugging,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to share screens. But let me put this on up to the camera. Look, it's a robot.
I thought it was gonna be. Oh hell no! I thought it was gonna
This
be
is like
something a little bit more discreet. Like,
it looks like a B-Tech Bumblebee from Transformers.
yeah,
Legit.
like
This
I
can't be a
thought it
true
was gonna
story.
be like a little box
Hang
like
on.
this that can slide across the
No,
line.
it's okay. So the Sun have put this out, and it's via Blue Footy
There's no
podcast
way.
via the Sun. They said Chelsea to become the first Premier League side to play with a robot ref to make offside decisions at the World Cup. Now, do you know what though? What I will say is this: this is where it could work, as in a robot ref. If that robot is able to consistently be where the last man is, if he can, like, let's just say it's designed in a way where it tracks the last man, or the cameras are so sophisticated that if you're the last man, it's following you, and then it's somebody else is the last man, it changes to them, and it's always in line with that person 100%, then maybe it works. And maybe it gives it like an instant snapshot picture and can like send get the images computed quickly so that the VAR can make like a snapshot decision where it's on or offside. Maybe like goal line technology, a buzz goes off in the ear.
Well,
I'd
does
like
it?
to
But
see it,
I
but I
I
thought they
don't.
meant actually running around the pitch, refereeing every decision. Offside makes sense because we kind of got that already.
I
Because
just thought
computers.
like it would be more discreet, like goal line technology. I didn't think it
This
was
is
gonna be a literal robot
it's
on
legit
the
a robot.
sideline.
It's like a proper robot. I mean, that's a little scary as well, you know.
Can they not just? I guess maybe for they could make that where it doesn't have to look like a robot. That is for aesthetics. That is for, people to feel like they're still watching the same thing. Gotta be.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of me that still feels like it's a fake story, but then that looks like a real picture of I think it's Dermot Gallagher next to it. Like, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm intrigued to see how it works. I'm intrigued to see how it works and how it looks and how it would operate. But do you get my point? Where if it's able to keep up with the play and be bang in
Mhm.
line, it may be able to give that absolute. The one thing we've never had is photographic evidence, almost like when it's a horse race and they have that camera that's bang on the line so you can see who crossed it first. They have it in athletics. It's almost like creating that. If that works, I mean, it could make the offsides even more accurate. But wouldn't it be great if you could get the accuracy we now have with the lines? Wouldn't it be amazing if
Mhm.
you could get that accuracy within a split second? So that way do you get
Well,
where I'm coming
yeah.
from? That would be amazing, but I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know.
I don't like the actual physical robot. I feel like I'm not into that, but there you
Oh, hang on.
go.
There's a comment here that says, where's it coming from? It says, Terry, the robot will be connected to all the cameras in the stadium, so it does not need to move. Well, I haven't read the article. Okay, that makes sense. I just thought that it was going to be doing offsides, but even then, the only way it makes sense is for it to be to be able to process those decisions in split second time. Otherwise, if it's going to take, imagine this robot takes the same amount of time to process the decisions. There's no point. I don't know. A comment here says, I finally got my wish for robot refs. Yes. I've been calling for this for years to get rid of those bald, fouled football. To get rid of bald, fouled football wannabes is what he said. There's no need to speak. Yeah. In fairness, yeah, I'm not bald anymore. So yeah, we can say what we want about baldies. I'm officially not
Well,
bald. Well,
you're you're growing the hair back, but technically you're still bald right now.
I get you. Comment here says robots are coming for your jobs. Beware is what Don won.
You guys have ever watched South Park? They took our jobs.
I used to watch South Park. I haven't watched South Park in years. Look at this comment here. It says, Terry, you will always be bald to us. Thanks. Thank you very
But
much.
you've had the channel since you've had hair, so you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
listen,
yeah.
lots happened to me since I've had this channel. Like everything's happened to me in my life. When I first started it, I had hair. I was clean shaven. I had no children. Yeah, so much has changed. Loads has changed. I can't even go into it all, but loads has changed. Absolutely loads.
See, people are saying it in the comments. They took our jobs. Yep. You guys, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Feels like.
We have a few more super chats here. Poch is a joke man.
Oh,
Already
making it
bottled
serious
six,
again.
already bottled 6 possible titles with PSG. His achievements in the Premier League, his runners-up and Champions League runners-up don't want him. This comment here says, Terry and Jess, I clicked on it twice. Genuinely believe Man United and Arsenal put more effort into manipulating the fans than probably running the clubs, and it's working.
Well, we're the two that have fallen the furthest away, Arsenal being further than Man United. So, yeah, I can see that, because as good as Spurs have done, they definitely are not as much of nothing that they do is ever as sinister or disappointing or devastating than what happens at Man United and Arsenal, so I get that. And, Arsenal fans just need to realize, like, we won't know anything until we get to the summer. We have to see where we finish and then see if we actually get this big summer. And I guarantee we're going to hear about needing to sell to buy. I'd put money on it.
Yeah. Sorry, I just read a comment here that says, Terry, is the secret change the channel's name to the football Terrace? That's actually quite funny. Prime here says, remember the car videos, Terry? Classic. Yeah. Do you know what's crazy? We were doing car cam podcasts before James Corden was doing carpool karaoke. That's how early we were doing it in the car. And there weren't even any rhyme or reason other than the fact that it was the only free time I had during the day. It was literally the only free time I had was driving to and from work. It's the only time I could do it. So that was literally my reason for it. And the amount of people that I see do stuff in their cars now, it's very inspiring to see. We did watch-alongs first, and we were the first channel to go away from just one club. And it's very inspiring now to see so many channels kind of doing their own versions and doing brilliant things with it. So yeah, absolutely great to see. Don One here says, I'm going to divorce my wife and get a robot doll. Fair enough, my friend. If that's what tickles your pickle, feel free to
kink shame here.
No, exactly. If you want to have an intimate relationship with a robot, if that's what if you instead of the smell of perfume and lovely bath salts, you prefer the smell of WD-40 and grease, fair play to you, Don One. Do you know what I'm saying? It's fair play to you. It's on you. I don't care if somebody wants to marry a barrage balloon. Lautaro Martinez is the Argentinian Lacazette. That's an interesting comment. Completely out of context what we're talking about, but thank you. Nick's back again with a comment.
Don't disrespect Lautaro Martinez like that.
Nick here says, I agree that the two things are absolutely incomparable, but it's all about creating a society in which people flourish. The small things matter. Listen, I do understand completely where you're coming from, Nick, now that you've kind of clarified that with 2 other comments, but I appreciate that and the support to the Terrace, my friend. Thank you much. Prime here says, fans are fickle, gullible, easy swayed and manipulated, especially during the transfer window. Their expectations for their clubs to deliver don't align with the reality of how their clubs are run.
Because most of the time they're ran on business decisions rather than footballing decisions, especially when it comes to Arsenal and Manchester United. I feel like the business aspect of things is more important than the footballing things, and fans only care about football, but they're looking at football on a freaking spreadsheet, counting the numbers and trying to figure out how to get the wage bill down. Like, at least I know that that's what KSC is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I'm not suggesting in the comments that I created the notion of recording yourself whilst in a car, because I'd never seen another podcast do it. There probably was another podcast that did it before us. I've never done the research. I got the idea from watching. It wasn't shows like podcasts. It was almost where you'd get like a show like the League of Their Own, where they're going on a day trip, then they're going to somewhere and they'd have like cameras set up in the car. I was like, that's actually quite cool. I like that. That's where I got the idea from. And I thought that way I can I used to record on the way to work, upload it at work, record on the way home, upload it at home. That was my way. So yes, I didn't invent the idea of having cars, phones, cameras in your car. Like, I'm not suggesting that. And by the way, even like YouTube ideas like watch-alongs are just, there was fan cams on Sky and there's been commentary on radio for years as an example. Fan cams they're new in the sense of they weren't being done by fans, but Sky and other TV companies have been doing vox pops for years on the streets with a camera and a microphone. Like nothing is ever really new. It's always just reinvented in one way, shape, or form. So, and that's just the way it is. Do you know what I mean? It's if you sit a bunch
the
of
way it is. Things will never be the same. No, take me down.
Oh my God. Listen, don't disrespect Tupac again, please. Please. Don't disrespect him again. Jack here says, will you watch the Old Firm derby and Mad Starts? Is that tonight? I didn't even know it was on. If it's on, I might give it a little butchers while I'm packing up in here and doing some work before I go
Terry
to
doesn't know anything about any other leagues or any other teams or nothing.
It's not
He
that
never
bad.
knows when anybody else is playing, except for Man United.
Oh, okay. Comment here says, who will Chelsea pay now if the refs are robots?
Do people think Chelsea pay the refs? I don't even think they get a bunch of calls.
People think everybody pay refs, not their team,
No, just Man United.
Yeah. Oh, this is the best comment of the night. She killed Tupac twice.
Oh man, I'm sorry, you guys.
No, don't say sorry to us. Say sorry to Tupac and his family, please. Honestly.
Oh,
My ears are bleeding after hearing that.
It was not that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Does Terry watch football? Listen, I do watch games from other leagues, and I watch a bit of Bundesliga every now and then. I'll watch a little bit of Serie. I won't watch other leagues. I watch Champions League. I do watch. I watched Rangers play at the weekend because I wanted to see a match, but it's just timing. Like I watch the full 90 minutes of every single one of the top six every weekend. So I build up. So I'm watching the build up. I watch the game, which takes 2 hours, including halftime and everything else, essentially about 2 hours. And then on average, we do an hour to an hour and a half show. So that's essentially like 3 to 4 hours per team. You times that by 6 as a general rule. Then I've got to make other content. There just is no time. So when other games are starting, I'm making content for you all. That's the only reason. It's not because I don't want to watch it as such. It's that there isn't anyone that says they watch all 6 Premier. Like you might be able to fit more in if you're not making content. I know a YouTuber that makes a lot of content and says he watches like about 4 or 5 games from each league each weekend, about 5 different leagues. I'm like, you do not watch 20 to 25 90-minute games and make the amount of content you make over a week. It's actually impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's crazy. It's crazy. Terry, are you going to watch other teams in Feb or in the Champions League? Yeah, of course I watch all the Champions League games, especially the knockout stuff. So I will be watching that. I did want to ask you quickly as well. Newcastle United, they have spent 94 million pounds during this window.
Mm-hmm.
They have to stay up after spending that now, surely. There can be no excuses for them. Surely not now.
Yeah, I think they have to stay up, and I believe that they will. I think that they've spent in the right areas. I do think that the signing of Bruno Guimaraes is going to be one that people will look at as a game changer, because Newcastle, with all due respect, should have no business having a player like that in their team. And you'll see, he'll have to shuffle around with John Joe Shelby, but he'll be great. Like, he's going to be good. And so I think with Eddie Howe, who for me was the right appointment for where they are right now, with the players that they brought in, the experience of Trippier, and hopefully the new players blend with the the better players that they have, like Alan Sigmaximum and all that kind of stuff. But it's still going to be difficult. Like, I still don't think it's going to be just we got the players and it's just going to work out. Some of these players are going to have to adapt. There's a lot of pressure, and I think Burnley did a really smart thing by bringing in Workhorse. And, you know, for some of these teams, it only takes one signing or two to really, Cornet will be back for them. And so don't count Burnley out to stay up. They have like a million games in hand, you know? So I think Newcastle has done a really good job in this window. It was a scattergun approach to try to see what they could get. And they got a real gem and some other really decent players. I know they got Maddie Target as well. So they have some players that have played in the Premier League. They have one that'll probably need to adapt, but I think they'll stay up. But I think it'll be difficult still.
Yeah, I mean, he got the only thing that can be. I think the business has been excellent. I really think the business has been excellent. Trippier, I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. Diego Simeone doesn't buy you, play you, win titles with you, and then beg you to stay for crap. You're a good player. Like Chris Wood is a lot better than people give him credit for. And I think if he's in a team that creates more opportunities and chances for him, I think he scores more goals. Bruno, as you mentioned, excellent talent. Dan Burn has been brilliant at Brighton. My only concern with him is I wonder how he's going to look outside of the Brighton system and setup. But Eddie Howe plays football, so I think he could fit in there. Matt Target's a good signing as well. You start looking now. You add those players into the Wilsons and the St. Maximans that are already good players. They should have enough firepower to stay up. They should. If they don't, though, and they go down, it's going to be. I mean, look, they'll win the championship, I think, with ease with that squad if they're able to keep hold of those players. But I think they should now. I think the expectation should be for them to stay up with the money they've spent, the Prem proven they've brought in, the extra sprinkling of top-class technical ability they have. The expectation is to stay up, I would say. There's a super chat here that says, a question for both of you. Which goal did your team concede that made you sit back and say, fair play, what a goal?
That's a difficult one. There's been a lot of goals that have been scored against Arsenal where I just thought that was good. I mean, like if you just count recently, I think the 2 goals that Diego Jota scored against us were like, what can you do about that? The goals that Aguero has scored against us in recent history, fair play. You know, there have been some really good goals against Arsenal. I have to come back with like a specific one.
My one is in relation to the one goal that always stands out in my mind was Thierry Henry, where he flicks the ball up and volleys it from distance against United. Fabian Barthez in goal, early 2000s. It was one of those goals where I was annoyed that my team conceded, but I still had a smile on my face because it was like, have I just witnessed that? I've only ever seen that a few times. I remember Wayne Rooney's overhead kick. I remember Vincent Kompany being interviewed and they asked him about the goal and you could just see his face light up. It was almost impossible for him to like hold in how good that goal. And that's why when it comes to like the best goals ever in the Premier League, you have to think back to those goals that have got like the team that conceded it almost celebrated. You obviously have when Ronaldo scored an overhead kick against Juventus. Juventus fans clapped it. It was so good. Like those goals resonate. Like you might see a goal that everyone goes, oh, that's so much better. But when a goal makes your opponents celebrate, it's one of the best. And that Henry goal for me against my team is the one that really stands out. The only other time I remember a performance getting that was Ronaldo at Old Trafford. I mean, the original Ronaldo being clapped off to a standing ovation because he ripped us apart, but it was so good. We enjoyed it. It was crazy. So yeah, it's that'd be the one. That Henry goal against Man United is the one that always. It's probably one of the only ones that stands out in my mind as being such a good goal that it kind of took away my anger. But yeah, that was probably the one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for me to think back at one because usually I'm just so furious when we get scored on. But Messi scored a goal against us in the Champions League, I think on his debut. Great.
Can I ask you about a goal that was scored against Arsenal? Again, it resonates for me because it was my team. The counter-attack goal in this Champions League semi-final second leg. Like, is that one that you or Arsenal fans look at and go, fuck it. Forget that it was us for a minute. It was such a good goal, that the speed, the accuracy, and the importance of the goal. Like, Are there any goals like that stand out to you where it's like, it wasn't the opener or the last minute winner, it was just the final now in the coffin, but you're like, do you know what, fair play to them, they're just better than us? No.
Nah, not when it comes to Manchester United. It was always just, how did they cheat their way to this one? Every single goal was like, how did they cheat? There was a goal that Ryan Giggs scored against us. I think it was like in 99.
You think it was in the semi-final?
I think it was in 1999.
I forgot about that goal. That has to be, yeah, that goal was sensational.
And yeah, so there's that. But to be fair, like in those times, even though I thought you guys cheated a lot, which was just mainly just my narrative, I was just like, oh, they just cheated. There's, Manchester United was very good, so a lot of the goals that you guys scored on us, which weren't many, there wasn't many until we got really, really bad and we went 8-2, but there wasn't many.
Oh, we beat you.
We
beat you 6-1 in like 2003. Yeah, do you know what's funny though? Right, I do you know the one thing I miss now that VAR's here? I don't know if you ever did this, but when my team scored, I'd be like, right, get the replays up. I want to see why it shouldn't have stood. I wanted to find a reason as to why it shouldn't stood, and that's the one thing that VAR is kind of almost taken away now, because it's almost, I know sometimes we still say that should have been a pen, that shouldn't have been a penalty or whatever, but generally speaking, like offsides are given now, things have a chance to be reviewed and everything else, but I do miss that part of football. But listen, yes, everybody that has tuned in, thank you. And everyone's shooting off now to go and watch Senegal and other games that are on. Make sure you hit the like button before you leave. Go and get yourself signed up now and subscribed and following our Twitch account. The link for that is pinned into our live comment section. We're live Friday night for another watch along here in the studio, so make sure you get that done. The top 6 show of sorts is, of course, running tomorrow, so make sure you're tuning in for that. We'll get all details out later. And thank you to everyone who's been listening on the podcast. It goes from strength to strength, more and more downloads each and every single week. And if you fancy checking out the podcast, we have it on a number of different platforms. The link for that is in our description below as well, but I'll also post it in the comment section, because it might be a case that you can't actually get to listen live to all of our shows, and you might be on the tube or you might be out and about and you just want to listen to it. So I've just posted that into the live comment section. It's also in the description as well. Go check out where you can listen to our podcast. This will be uploaded in the next hour or so. Jess, an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you for answering my questions this week.
Thanks for not poking at me this week. Whatever.
I'll always poke. 100%. I'm always going to poke you when it feels like the right thing to do. I'm just checking here. I didn't miss any super chats. I didn't, which is cool. I always like to make sure. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless.